Now, by way of introduction, we'll talk about why we want to do this. Why would anybody want to improve the processes? I mean, surely we simply do what we're told. Well, it's not as simple as that, because as with most things, the world is a bit more complex than we can happily devise, and our processes tend to start out quite simple. Now, in almost any type of work, we usually can tell there's something is not quite right, something isn't working that well, but we don't necessarily know why it's not right or what to do about it. There is so much that seems to be interrelated with all of these things. Where do you start? So having an approach to process improvement will give at least some structure with which to approach the problem. Now, ultimately, all processes have to support the organization's strategic goals. That's why you're in business, and presumably that's why you're doing the work. The work somehow supports what the organization wants to achieve. Now, the organization goals could be anything from, well, let's be the first to the market, be out there with new products, or it could be, we'll follow fast. We will quickly respond with new and successful products. Or frequently, not frequently, but sometimes organizations have the view that, well, we've got a market share, we've got a good product in the market, we'll just hold on to what we got and basically defend our turf. There are some approaches also which largely say, well, we won't do anything and we'll hope it all goes away. And you can see that in a number of organizations. Now, with rare exception, product quality underpins all other organization goals. Now, that doesn't mean high quality, it just means quality. And under the organization goals, there is some assumption that the work will get done to a particular acceptable level of quality. Some years ago, it was thought, particularly in America, that organizations had to make choices. They could trade off capabilities against each other, where you could be fast but the quality wouldn't be good, or it could be high quality but it wouldn't be cheap, or it could be cheap but it wouldn't be high quality and you wouldn't get it fast, or you were trading these things off. But then some people began to notice that there seemed to be organizations who could seem to manage to get two or more of them together at the same time. I think, well, how did that happen? So there was this investigation into multi-capable organizations. Usually they had a look at quality, speed, cost, and flexibility. Not necessarily in that order, but certainly those things. So with the quality, we're talking about the quality of the product or service. With the reliability, that they can do the same thing again and again. I mean, they provide a service, and they can provide a service to that level of quality again and again, as opposed to some organizations where they can luck out once, but the next time it's not so good. Speed of production, doing something to a level of quality, but you can do that if you have infinite time. You've got time to fix all the bugs. But what happens if you don't have time? How can you get that done quickly? Similarly, how can you be responsive? That is, if you develop product A to a level of quality, can you develop product B, which is not necessarily that similar to it? How transferable are your work processes to retain the same level of quality? And I guess the last one is, can you do it for lower cost? As I say, some organizations seem to manage to do all of those at the same time. And the question is, how do they do it? Well, two researchers had a look at that, and there were Furdos and DeMeyer. And they had a look at some of the electronics companies, and they developed what they considered to be, or what they call a sand cone model. They called it a sand cone because the idea that as you put more on to get more height, the base had to get bigger. So they observed that these organizations started things in a particular sequence. Right? And the first thing they got under control was quality, And once they got that under control, then they could go for dependability, reliability. That is, getting the same level of quality with a different product or doing it again and again. Then came speed or flexibility, which is, as I say, adapting the same or similar work process to different products. So they would get that out. And the last one was achieving all of that, the same speed, the same level of flexibility, the same level of quality at lower cost, which is fair enough. Now the question is, but how do they do it? How do they improve? Obviously the question is, improve what? Improve why? How? What's improved? Well, process improvement methods provide a disciplined way to identify useful improvements, and usually the first thing to find out is what's wrong. They're going all sorts of improvements if you've got no idea what actually is wrong in the first place. So you tend to have to diagnose what actually is wrong. And this can be either by looking at the internals of the process, but more frequently is by looking at the outcomes. It could be the overall outcome, or could be of several processes, or could be the outcome of a process. And there are lots of industry-specific improvement models. In software development, we have SPICE, Assessment Improvement Model. We have CMMI, the Integrated Capability Maturity Model. We have Lean, we have Six Sigma, we have Sprint Retrospectives, we have Agile Process Improvement. And I'll do all of those in later talks, but right now it's enough to know that there are lots of different methods of improving anything. And in many ways, it doesn't matter which one you use, any of them, any disciplined approach will work to some degree at some point. Now, most of these improvement methods do assume a quality perspective, and that's possibly because defects in the product or service are reasonably easy to observe and reasonably easy to measure.